Okay, so we're moving down to the 17, the second last video of this series. Let's start with the first question. It says that with the new park, stadium and entertainment complex along the Delaware side is but one of the large communities. So is but uh, is but one of the large communities that is looking to use waterfront as a way of it to improve the quality of urban life and attract new business. Okay, so communities that are, or that is the main question which we can see from the options. So communities should of course be R. So A and B goes out. Are looking to the use of their waterfronts to improve the quality of urban line and attract, and to attract, so whatever it should be parallel, looking to use its waterfront as a way of improving the quality of urban life and attracting. So this is a lot too much wordy, and way of improving is a way of improving the quality to use its waterfront. So again it should be theirs to use their waterfront, and it creates confusion what it might refer to. So looking at using their waterfront as a way of improving their quality of urban line and attract. So the best option here, which does not play with the tenses and which conveys the right meaning in the right way, is option C. Let's look at the second question. It says that although ice particles in the upper atmosphere benefit Earth in that they reflect and absorb radiation, they act, although acting as a global thermostat, thus keeping. Okay, although they act as acting as a global. So let's look at option B, acting as a global thermostat and thus keeping Earth either from burning up or freezing over, which also accelerating is weird. Sorry, while also accelerating is weird. So B goes out. Acts as a global thermostat and thus keep Earth from either burning up or freezing over while also accelerating. So while also accelerating, the wrong, and what is this while referring to? So that becomes another issue. So let's look at option D. They in the Earth, they act as a global thermostat and that thus keeps Earth either from burning up or freezing over, even though it also change of meaning in D and E. Even though formation is incorrect way to use that, they act as a global thermostat to keep Earth from either burning or freezing over, but they also accelerate. So the best option here becomes A, which is as it is. Let's look at 3. It says, unlike other Mayan cities, which city? Canca's commercial power throughout the lowland seems to be from using its strategic position at the foot of the highlands, which were a source of jade, obsidian, and other valuable commodities. Too many modifiers. We have to find out which thing should be placed where. and also the comparison. So unlike Mayan cities, should compare a city. So a city is being compared in E, so D and E. Let's check that. Newcomers seem to be using strategic position at the foot of the highland, which was source of jade and other valuable commodities, in becoming commercial power throughout the lowlands. Okay, to strategic power at the foot of highlands as a source of. Okay, let's look at this part, in becoming a commercial power throughout the lowlands. The last part, to become a commercial power throughout the lowlands. So between D and E, to become is better, and seemed can come seems to have, seem to be using. So we are not talking about present, we are talking about past. So seem to have been used should be the right answer. So out of D and E, E becomes our choice. Let's move to the next. Fourth one says that in the Louisiana Purchase of 1803, United States acquired 820 square miles for about 4 cents an acre, which more than doubled the country's size and brought its western border within the reach of Pacific Ocean. So let's look at some of the errors here. So in the Louisiana Purchase of 1803, who the United States acquired 8 square mile for 4 cents, which more than doubled country's size and that bought. Oh, this is weird formation. Let's look at option B. For about 4 cents an acre, the United States acquired in. Oh, this is quite weird. With the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, who the United States acquired 8 miles for about 4 cents an acre, more than doubling its size and bringing. Oh, this is good, but more than doubling its size and bringing seems parallel, but this is wordy. Let's keep this. So till now we have kept A and C. The United States, in the Louisiana Purchase for about. No, we cannot separate that pricing and all these things. So acquiring 820 mile purchase, the United States bought it about. It refers to what? Ambiguity is created by it, more than doubling the country's size. So a tough call here. So is it in or is it with? So of course this happened with the Louisiana Purchase. So in that respect, C is favorable. Now let's look at the last part. 4 cents, more than doubling its size and bringing, versus which more than doubled the country's size and that brought. So a tough call to make. So out of them, C becomes the best option. So A removes out because which needs to be kept close to what it modifies. And C becomes one of the better choices. Let's move at fifth. So blaming its recent troubles on widening recession and slow rates of technology spending, the computer company announced that it would cut 10% of its workforce, more than 200 jobs, and expect to report a loss in its third quarter. Okay, blaming the current problem widening recession, so it's the computer company announced that there would be a cut, or it would cut 10% of workforce. I think what follows is more than 200 jobs. So something that focuses on that job thing should be there. So in that respect, let's look at it would cut 10% of its job force. What is that? 200 jobs. Okay, that there would be a cut 10% of the workforce, which was more than 200 jobs, and expected. So B seems weird. Expected or reported is wrong. And the C company announced the cutting of its workforce by 10%, more than 200 jobs, and it expected or reported. Again, expected or reported is wrong. The company announced the cutting of its workforce by 10% or more than 200 job and expecting to report a, and expecting is wrong. And the company announced that. So company's announcement include, we never prefer apostrophe. So, and it seems like this announcement is being compared. So the best option here remains A, which is as it is. Expected or reported becomes a reason to reject. And apostrophes are not preferred. Let's look at this one. The smaller they are, the tougher they become. So 9 months after the country banned scan other from tranquil order pocket, a judge overturned the ban on the ground of violating state laws for allowing the use of personal autograph on common waterways. So on the ground that it violated, of their violating is not the answer of violating state laws, ambiguous, that it violates state laws that allowed, and that involves state laws allowing, the state laws were being violated, so it should be between C and D. So violates and violated should give us the hint, so that it violated or violates, so it violated because he overturned the ban on the ground that it violated the state law. What was the state law? Allowing to use. So that makes D our best option here. So tense is right, that is put. Let's look at the seventh one. It says that Britain's economic growth was slower in mid 1970s and its decline much rapid in subsequent recession than the United States. Let's look at the options. Apostrophes are not in general preferred. So Britain's economy was slower and its decline. So we are talking about Britain's economy or Britain when we talk about it. And also we are comparing economy with United States and not United States economy. So the economy of Britain was slower than it was resident than United States. That we cannot compare Britain's economy, we can compare Britain. So the economy of Britain and the economy of United States only seen in option D, which compares economy with economy. So comparing apple to apple becomes our reason. Go with D. Let's look at option A. That says that unlike psychiatrists who are trained as medical doctors, psychologists have historically been forbidden from prescribing their patient drugs. But in 2002, New Mexico began to grant the privilege of prescribing to licensed doctor level psychology who complete additional training and certificate program. So the privilege of prescribing versus the privilege prescribing privileges versus the privilege to prescribe began to be granted versus privilege of prescribing, and the hint here Additional training and certificate program. Okay. So the verb form should be close, as close as possible, and the placement of one should be avoided. Let's look at option B. Psychologists have historically been. Historically. So the preferred way of historically should that it should start in the first. So unlike psychiatrists who are trained as medical doctors, historically psychologists have been forbidden from prescribing drugs. Have been forbidden from the drugs. I am reading option E for their patients. But in 2000 in Mexico, they began granting prescribing privileges. Who is they? Is it patients or is it psychologists? So they should be removed. And putting the historically right, which is in option D and E, we can choose option D as the right answer. And have been is another reason. Let's move to the ninth one. It says the Chicago and Columbia River originally flowed into St. Lawrence by the way of Lake Michigan, but having been restricted by constructing canals so that water empties into Mississippi by way of Illinois River. Having been is my main issue, but having been is the thing that would reject it. Rivers have originally flowed into St. Lawrence by way of Lake Michigan, but they have been redirected. They have been redirected by constructing canals out of okay. So had means something that actually ended, so the wrong tense in B. So rivers which originally flowed into St. Lawrence by way of Lake Michigan but have been redirected by the construction of. Sentence is fragmented. So but have been redirected by construction of, having been redirected by the construction on, and have been redirection through the construction of. So the best option here becomes through the construction, because that was the reason. The construction is a medium that has made it happen. So a close one, but under the given scenario would pick E. Let's look at this. It says that pioneer by scientists at Los Alamos National Laboratory, beam robots are not programmed to walk. Instead, they use brain-like circuits called neural networks to learn and walk through trials and error. So it's about modifiers, comma. Pioneered by scientists Alamos National Laboratory, who? Of course, beam robots. So we can remove D and E. Beam robots are not being programmed to walk, but instead we will not use being in C. So coming down to A and B. So beam robots learn to walk through trial and error by using brain-like circuits called neural network instead of by programming them. This is fragmented. So are not programmed to walk. Instead they use brain-like circuits, and here by using brain-like circuits called neural network, okay, instead by programming them. So fragmented things plays in the wrong way here and there, which makes A our best option. Okay, so that would do it for my this session. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.